Hello and welcome to React Lecture 7. So in this lecture, we'll see form handling. Okay, so there are a couple of ways we can do the form handlings. So one is the uncontrolled form handlings, which is the default one without using any React hooks. Okay, so the other one is, which is the recommended one, is that the control form handling using useState method. Okay, so this one, and then we may also need to control multiple inputs. So it's basically the extension of this one. And then the other one, we also see that how we can improve the accessibility of the form inputs. Okay. So what is basically a form? So form is, actually contain a set of widgets that take the user inputs, right? So for example, you can take the text input, you can take the password input, you can take a drop down box or checkbox, so those are the things, or text area that you can add in a form. Okay, so the user will keep the input, you can take the value, and then you will submit it to the server, right, or the API. So in React, we directly will not just submit. Rather, what we'll do, we will use a event.prevent default method to stop the form submission. Rather, we will collect the data and then make a JSON format, and then use the asynchronous fetch method to the specific address to send the request. Okay, and then we get the response. So this is what we are going to do in React. Okay, so that will be our approach. In our future lectures we will see this, okay, how we can create the request, and then send it to the fetch method. Okay, um, but yeah, that, I mean, you can also submit the form directly to the server. So that's the another way. Okay, but we'll use this approach because this approach is newer and is better, and because it is also faster in a sense, because it will provide you um, asynchronous communication with the server, so you can work while you are waiting for loading the data from the server. Okay, so we'll explain this a lot in the future videos. Okay, so that's our form. Now, the if it is uncontrolled input, means that you are not controlling the widget state. So, for example, here we have this is a form, and then form has the input. The type is text. Okay, so it's basically create a text field here where you can take the username here, right? So initially there is nothing, and then React is also not setting the initial value. Okay, so the widget itself knows what is the initial value is. Okay, and then you just, when you submit, okay, when you submit, and then we basically calling the handle submit function, and handle submit function is calling the prevent default, means that the form will not be submitted. Rather, we'll extract the value from the name field. Okay, and we'll just set an alert that, okay, what the name value we are extracting from this form. Okay, so we are not sending to the any server yet, because we did not cover that part. So when we will set our server, um, web server, and then we'll get an address, that in which address the client will send the request. So we'll do that later. Okay, so first we are just doing the React front end part. Okay, so when we'll have our backend, then we can see the complete communication. So that's the uncontrolled input. Okay, now if you see the control input, then you will see there was a difference. So the in control input, so let's say that we have the name field. Since we have just one input, so it's fine just if you use one variable here. Okay, so the name, and then using the use state, we say that it's initialized to just empty string. Okay, so name initially, so it is the initial state is set by the React hook, use state hook. Okay. And then we also have a set name function, which is basically used to change the value of the name field. Okay. So here you see that we say that on change, if anything happened to this name field, then what we are doing, we are calling the set name function, and we say that whatever the value of the name field, okay, so that we are assigning um, to the name property. Okay, so name property will get the value of the new value. Okay, new value whatever the user has written. Okay, either writing something or deleting something. If any change happen, so the name value will be updated. Okay, and then you can when you submit the form, okay, and then you can call the handle submit, um, and then handle submit will do the things. Okay. And then one other thing is that, so this is called user accessibility is given here, that okay, set name will be so after you handle the form, okay, which is basically doing the alert, and then you set name is initialized to empty string. Okay, so um, that's the user accessibility form, because so let's say that this was your previous value and then you already uh, set the alert. So if you don't write this one, so the previous value will be still in here, and which you don't want. So that's why you can call this, and then it's basically clean up all the previous input. Okay. So now if you have multiple inputs, okay, and you want to do the control input, so we need, so one approach is that you can create separate use state, okay, for each of the variable that you want to keep the state, or the better approach is you can use an object. Okay, so in objects we can keep the information as a name value pair. Okay, so either you can initialize here by say that name is initially empty, and then we have two field, name and email is empty. Okay, you can do that, or the other way you can also say that when you register the value of these two field, we say that okay, either if there's a valid value, then you get that, otherwise you'll just take an empty. So this is an or operation here. Okay, and then here on change we register to a handle change function. Okay, since we have multiple um, input, so we just use one function, is the shared function for change event for both of them. Okay, so here you see that how we define the handle change. So in the handle change we take the name, because the name field will be changed, right? So for example, for this field the name field value is name, but for this field the name field value is email. Okay, so that's the property is the name, but the value is the email, right? So that's why it can be a name, email, or maybe it can be something else. It depends on whatever the field that you have created. Okay, so we need to take the name field and then value field. Okay, and then here we are writing the set inputs, and then this one is basically to saying that okay, whatever the previous state, you keep it, but you only update by if there is any updated information for any name field um, and the value field. Okay, so that's will update. Okay, so this one is the spreader, three dots, and then so you keep the previous state and then you just update whatever is updated. Okay, and here we are showing both the name and the email. Okay, and then the one thing that we said that after submitting the form, which is basically you are setting an alert after showing the alert, and you say that focus should be at the name field. Okay, so like you have let's say name feed and email feed, and then after you take the value from this and then show the alert, then where the focus should go, right? So let's say this is your first field, this is your second field, and then we can keep the focus in here, so that means the cursor will be blinking in here. Okay, so this is also some kind of improving the user accessibility. Okay, so this is important when you want to create a user-friendly form design. So now we show you that okay, what are the three options that we have used. So for the improving user accessibility, so the first is the autofocus. Okay, so the name field, so let's say that when your form will be open, so let's say that you just open your browser, and then we have a name, and then we have the email. Okay, so initially where the focus should go, so you say that the focus should go in here. Okay, so that's the autofocus. So we do the autofocus in this field, not this field. Okay. Um, and then the other thing that also we said, okay, this field is record. Okay. So that means if you don't fill this one, and then you try to go here and try to have you have a submit button, then it will say, okay, this field is a record field, so you must need to fill up. So similarly, there is another attribute used, the record for email as well. So that means both the field you need to fill up. Okay. And then other user accessibility, the another thing you see that input type is email. Okay, so we could write input type is text. Okay, but we want to have a guardrail that okay, so there should be the email format here. Okay, so that's it will HTML will automatically check that whether the field that the value that you are writing it is the correct format of email. Okay, so that's there. And then other things that we said that okay, so after you extract the information from this field and then you display them, then you do the autofocus. Okay, so you do the set input. Okay, so before the autofocus we also have the set input. So set input is saying that um, we want to go to the initial state. So that means the name, so whatever you have written, so everything will be gone, so it will go to the initial state. Okay, so what is the initial state? So initial state, you say that initial, so you want to write John Doe as the initial name, and then John Doe at gmail.com, that's the initial email. Okay, so that will be in go in there. Okay, and then other thing is that after showing the alert, you also want to give the autofocus to the name field. Okay, so these are some user accessibility to give the user better experience when you design the form. Okay, so yeah, so that's it. And then in the next video, we'll show how to write code for this. Okay, so see you in the next video. Thank you.